Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm back with a video for the Aries new moon. So there are so many changes happening on the energetic level, and I think that I may do more videos about this specific time because of that. But in this video, I want to speak about something that I don't really have the words to properly speak about. So let's see what comes through here. It's going to be interesting. But at the same time, this is something that is so elemental, so foundational to our inner worlds at this point in time, and also like kind of the potential that we're gonna have as we move into the future, especially this year. So that's why I want to try to kind of pull out some of this information and put it into a video, because I think it's so important. So what I'm gonna use to kind of guide me are these two cards. It's the Magician and the Fool. And as you see here, they are represented by the 0 and the 1. And probably a lot of you already know about this concept of the 0 and the 1. You know, this is also called in computers, this is called the binary code. It's what builds up kind of the foundation of the computers that we love today. But this is also in quantum science. We also have this concept of the zero state, and the 1, you know, when we have kind of chosen a timeline or a state, and it's like we're moving into manifestation. And so this concept of the 0 and the 1 is really elemental to matter, to everything that exists. And it's something also that I think a lot of you have actually been working with subconsciously over the past couple of years. So let's get into that. The Fool is the 0 state. And this is really a state that we are taught to fear today. You know, being a 0 is something that we do not like in today's climate. You know, most of us, we have been taught to strive to be the number 1, you know, the one that can manifest, the one that holds all the tools and can kind of command reality. That's deeply ingrained within our subconscious programming, that we are striving for this. And so now we have kind of been going through this long energetic process where the universe, you know, the kind of the stream of evolution, the stream of health, if you will, have kind of been guiding us, trying to get us to go back into this 0 state, this Fool state. And there are a number of reasons for that. You know, when we go into this Fool state, it's almost as if we are, that's when we connect to our soul. That's maybe how I can put it in the best way. That's when we connect to our soul. It's like we pull more of our attention inwards, and instead of focusing so much on, you know, moving forward on a specific timeline, you know, moving forward something specifically that we want to manifest, we start focusing on seeing all of the potentials that we are essentially blind to when we're only in the Magician state. And so that's what I feel like a lot of us have been going through. We've been pulled back into this soul state. You know, it's almost like in this state we're not even alive, almost. We're not even manifest. We don't matter. We're not matter. We're not the number 1. We're not the winner. We're in this state of being invisible, not getting a lot of value given to us by the external world. And so that is, the 0 is very interesting like that, because if you think about it, the 0 is everything that has not been given a value. And so in many ways, the 0 represents everything that is currently outside of our current matrix or our current manifested reality. And so to actually have a clear view of this zero state, I mean, it's extremely beneficial if we want to manifest something that is outside of the current matrix, you know, which maybe a lot of us have kind of had that inkling that that is what we're here to do. You know, we're here maybe to bring in new blueprints, new timelines, new options for the collective. And so that's why kind of the universe has been pulling us back into this state of zero. But of course, given the programming of our egos, we have been, in a sense, fighting this. I think many of us, like, our egos have been suffering because they haven't naturally, they don't understand the zero, you know, they just fear it, they just fight it because they don't want to become it. And so that's kind of the climate that we've been going through, this in a sense battle between these two forces, which is kind of duality, you know what I mean? It's like either we're in the zero state or we're in the number one state. But up until this point in time, very few people have been able to be in both states at the same point, at the same time. And so that is what I feel is changing for us now collectively. We're moving into a time where we're becoming more quantum. Like we're overcoming duality. And this is part of bringing in that rainbow consciousness, you know. It's like layers of different types of consciousness that is going to be existing at the same time on Earth, which means that, you know, when some people meet you, they are just very stuck in the number one. They are just stuck in the old matrix. Their mind is not open to anything else but the old matrix. If they were to meet you and you will be fully in your full state, they will see you as a zero. But then maybe you were to encounter someone else that is also in the full state, and they are maybe able to tune into your world and see, you know, the value inside of the zero. You know, they see the value of the zero, and they would actually see you, you know, as the number one, as the magician. And so that's a little bit what I mean when we're talking about the rainbow consciousness, that to live in that type of state, we have to be able to handle both people seeing us as an absolute shit, you know, like an absolute zero, and also people seeing us as if we are Christ himself, you know what I mean? That they are just like, you are a genius. And so that's what we've been preparing for, actually, collectively, or some of us. It's like we've been building this inner neutrality to the way that people see us, you know, so that we're gonna be able to handle both being seen as, you know, an ascended master and being seen as a nobody, without that really affecting our vibration, you know, our core value. And so that's the type of strength that actually I think we have been building behind the scenes. Maybe a lot of the times we haven't been that aware of it. But I think that as this new moon in Aries comes in, some of you are going to start to work with this process in a much more conscious way. So if this is you, then you have probably at this point in time been able to kind of find some kind of comfort in being the zero. If we think back in history, if we think about, you know, what roles were most frequently in the state of the zero, you know, what roles were not given any value if we look back in the human history. And those roles were very often, you know, the unfertile feminine, so the crone energy. It was the poor man, he has no value, and it was the child, a lot of the times also no value. So for those of you that have been really pushed into this zero state by your higher self, you have probably gotten quite acquainted with these kind of shadow roles, you know, this is part of the shadow of humanity, that the people that choose to work with the zero, the state of zero, they kind of learn how to ascend these roles. And so I think in the past, we probably have been dealing with quite a lot of fear around aging, for one. You know, we've been dealing with quite a lot of fear around not having resources, you know, not having money, not having matter, because it's essentially what we care about does not matter in the matrix. You know, so for many of you, maybe you've had to choose between like ethics and actually having money. And then the final one is, of course, the child, you know, coming from an energy of innocence and play and just exploration, natural exploration, has not at all been valued in the current matrix. You know, if you're not an experienced male, basically, then you have less value. And so anything that has been outside of that are kind of roles that we have not, you know, in a sense, milked for their value. There are so many gifts and hidden treasures and hidden understandings that we have not made use of within these archetypes on a collective level. And this is actually a part of why our collectives are unhealthy in many ways. It's very imbalanced. You know, there has only been this one specific role that has been given value. And this is what we've been working on changing. And so, like I said, many of you that have been in the zero, in the energy of the zero, you may have reached a point now where you're no longer fearing these roles. You may have reached a point where you're no longer fearing aging or death. You're no longer fearing being poor or not mattering. You know, you again surrendering to death, thinking that, well, if I am not gonna matter here on this earth, then I guess, you know, what is waiting for me is then death. And so surrendering into that energy, meaning that that potential, that timeline, does no longer change your vibration. Again, it's like building a very stable vibration, a very stable core that is not easily frazzled by external circumstances. And this is, of course, difficult. So for me personally, I feel like I'm not quite there. I still get frazzled by external circumstances, but it's definitely way better than what it used to be. I've gotten a lot more awareness around these things, and as I understand what is happening, you know, as I understand that, oh, right now I'm stepping into my inner child, then I also understand that certain people won't give me value when I play this role. And so it almost becomes a little bit like a game, you know. It's also a way of checking other people around you to see where you're at, you know, in your process of wholeness. Do you give this role value, or will you just brush me off, you know, and just like make fun of me if I step into this role, for instance? So with kind of the understanding of, you know, the 0 point, what it contains, with the understanding of the collective shadow, we actually start to build our power again. And that's where I feel that that's what we're moving into now with this Aries new moon. It's a sense of coming into this understanding. It's like enough people are going to start to understand what is happening, and so we will start to speak about it. You know, we will start to share about it, and that's how this type of understanding is going to start to spread more and more and more. And that is really how the 0, the state of 0, the shadow, what has not been given value, is gonna start to experience this rebirth energy, you know, this coming back to life, this coming back to the surface, coming back into the light. And it is from that place that I feel that we're gonna birth a new number one, you know, new versions of the number one. And this is what I see as, you know, the divine masculine, the template of the divine masculine. And again, I use the term masculine not because it is associated with men, but masculine is the energy of extroversion, right? So masculine is the force that shoots out. It's kind of the shooting star. It has direction, it has drive, it creates movement, while the feminine, the energy of the feminine, it is that which pulls in. You know, it's the feminine is much more like the zero state. Actually, it's kind of like the womb, you know, the shadow. It pulls you in when it's dark, you know, it pulls your awareness because your mind is trying to kind of make sense of the shadows automatically. So even if we may not want to go into the shadows, it can also be quite difficult to not think about it. It's like it constantly steals our energy because, again, that is kind of the magnetism of the feminine or the shadows. And so that's what I feel is happening, and I am very excited actually about this change. I think it's gonna mean so much for so many people. I think that a lot of people are just gonna move into this state of, you know, forgiveness, opening back up to love, to life, to joy. And yeah, I'm almost starting to cry because it's that type of energy. It's this very healing, heart opening energy coming back in, because suddenly we start to see the value of what we are, you know, of some of these roles that we may have been stuck in for our entire lives. Suddenly those roles are gonna start to carry more value in the collective, and we're gonna feel as if we're lifted out of the shadows. And so it's a very beautiful energy if we're tuned into the zero. If, however, we are tuned into the old number one, then this time is gonna be a more challenging time. This time for the people that have been, if there are people on this earth, which probably it's not that many, you know, we all have shadow, we all have issues, we all have problems, but the people that have been very kind of like in tune with their number one, the people that have been able to really be on a winning streak for very long, these are the people that are gonna start to experience more challenges now. And so this is also how we can kind of locate that part of us within ourselves. It's kind of the energy of the big man, you know, the one that can just do whatever he wants to do because he's been applauded by the collective for so long. And so it's the energy of someone that maybe has lost a little bit of their compassion. Maybe they don't have as much empathy anymore, you know, because the empathy wears off if we never have to experience the shadows. You know, that's what is beneficial with experiencing shadows or pain or struggle, is that it really builds that muscle of empathy. We understand these more difficult experiences a lot more. We can see that other people are going through it and we can understand it. But if we're only like surfing on the surface, you know, if everything is always working out for us, of course, it is more difficult to understand the people that have never experienced ever, you know, this energy of winning. It can be easy to think that, oh, I am just special. There's just something, you know, it's actually, I am just better than others. And energetically, that's of course not the case. You know, it's just more about time and space, and how the energies kind of flows through that time and space. And so I think that with this awareness of, you know, the qualities of the zero, the old number one, and then also the new number one, you may be able to kind of pinpoint these energies within yourself a little bit better. And I think that this is important because that's when you can actually make more conscious choices in regards to, you know, how much energy you're willing to, in a sense, feed these different aspects of yourself. You know, every time we play out a role or an aspect or a behavior, we're feeding the part of our brain that kind of holds that aspect blood, and so it grows, kind of, you know, it wins, you know, it wins. It is the chosen. And so what we actually play out, what we're willing to entertain, it definitely shapes our body. It becomes kind of our manifestations, you know, on a very physical, foundational level. And so it can help to be aware of these things. So I guess that was just like a very quick channeling of some of the characteristics related to, you know, the 0 and the 1, and how they may be playing out within ourselves and within our societies in the time to come. So I think I'm just going to end this video here. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.